We're going to recreate a grapevine pruning billhook that is at least 300 years old from the information that I got. I need to talk a little bit about that first so you understand a bit of the background and the history of it, and we'll check out a little video of me finding it as well in a minute. Basically, a grapevine pruning billhook has a certain shape, and that shape has not changed even back to like actual finds from Roman times. I'm by no means an archaeologist, but it really looks, on all the pictures, even from vineyards, you know, like carved in stones, old pictures, all that kind of stuff, checking out websites, it really fits that kind of description. So I'm really nearly certain that's what it is. Now, because when I was metal detecting in Germany, the guys who own the woods basically say it's at least 300 years old, the woodlands. Now, from that I can conclude, well, nobody's going to be pruning grapes in a woodland, so it has to be older than that. Also, in the last video I mentioned that I found it at about 20 centimeter depth. So, you know, good chances is that's old, which means that if we're going to recreate it, we would need to make it from wrought iron. Now, before we talk about this piece and the collaboration, I want to just really quickly show you the video of me actually finding it, and it's basically going to be the one on the left.
So, what I have found, this is cool. This I found, I put this in the hole here, and there's a reason I'll tell you in a second. But I found this actually way over there. I can't believe that I actually found not just one, but two again. I keep on doing that as well, which is really cool. Hang on a minute, there's a really, there's a bit of a hook at the back. That actually would have been where the wooden handle would have been held in. Unbelievable. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
So there you go. That was, I had a lot more hair then. But anyway, so billhooks have been created since the Bronze Ages, and so, you know, a very useful gardening tool and woodland kind of management tool. And basically the reason they have a hook is for the only sole purpose of that is to be able to, when you're slashing and you miss and you hit the ground or a stone, you're not going to dull your edge because the pointy bit will be impacting on the ground, and that's the only reason why they have this little curve on it, in case you're wondering. It's not so much for pulling, that would be more like a sickle. Billhooks are mainly for slashing and also a little bit like pruning. Nowadays we have secateurs, but that's what basically people used to do. So I actually, and we'll get into the wrought iron now in a second, I have here a drawing, I don't know if that comes up really well on the camera, of an exact replica. The reason I know it's a replica is because my fingernail obviously doesn't change over time, the size of it, and by getting my fingernail to match up with the footage on the video, I could change the screen size and then basically just trace it, and even the thickness I could figure out from that. So this is exactly how, the exact size of it, and so we can actually do a proper job at replicating it as well. Okay, let's talk about this piece of wrought iron real quickly. This was sent to several other blacksmiths, including myself, by Jessica and Roy Adams from Tri-Central Ironworks, with the idea of just basically, here's a piece of wrought iron, take as much of it as you want, or as little of it as you want, and just make something. There's also a playlist that you can actually check out all the videos of the other guys as well, which I think is really neat, because then you can actually get to see other projects done with the same wrought iron by blacksmiths. And there isn't that many wrought iron videos out there. There's some, but not that many, and it's just easy to find. So that's it. We are going to now start. I'm going to take because I'm new to this, and especially wrought iron, I'm going to take about 1 inch of this, draw it out into thin pieces, get a bit of a feel for it, but also I want to do in this video now today some testing on case hardening. Sorry for the long intro, but I really had to explain all that. I mean, if you're still here, I think you're going to enjoy this bit. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm waiting for the piece now to heat up, and basically one thing that I wanted to mention as well real quickly is two things actually. One is that the blade portion, the edge of any kind of blades from that time period historically would have been done in four ways. Either it would have been no carbon would have been added to the piece whatsoever, so it would have just been a wrought iron piece and sharpened. That didn't happen that very often for obvious reasons. The second method would have been case hardening. And case hardening a blade, the sharpening would have had to be done and was done differently only from one side. And the reason for that is because, so it could be this side or that side, because obviously there's a case of hardenable steel surrounding the very soft wrought iron, and so when you sharpen it across, you're left with that hardened edge. So either way would work, and that's what people found from doing archaeological digs. Now the third method would be the most common, which is basically adding just a bit of shear steel into the portion where the cutting edge would have been. And the fourth method would have been not used as often, which would have been folding and restacking blister steel and making shear steel, which would be very time consuming. So what they did then is made the entire blade from the entire actual tool from that, and that would have been a very high quality tool at that time. Now because I looked at the footage again, I noticed that I'm nearly certain, because I'm just working on footage here, that only one side was actually sharpened. So that suggests at least that it would have probably been case hardened, and that's kind of what I'm going to have to go for, because of course I want to kind of replicate this piece. Okay, let's just do a spat test real quick. So as you can see, there's no carbon whatsoever in there because there's no sparklers. Each little stream that comes off would normally have sparks. Let me just show you that. Again, something that has a lot of carbon in it. There's this leaf spring. Now one method I read up on, these two methods are apparently done by blacksmiths back in the day, the small blacksmith. And basically one was to bring this up to non-magnetic and then quench it in urine. And apparently the nitric acid or something like that was supposed to then put that carbon in there somehow. I have no idea how that's supposed to work. If anybody knows, let us know. Now the second method I think is also something that if it would work would be cool, because we'd save so much fuel. Basically you take some charcoal powder, you bring this up to orange, bright orange, and then you stick it in there in the middle, you let it cool down, and then that's it. It's supposed to be case hardened. I mean, that sounds great, doesn't it? I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to give it a try, because you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and that's how we actually learn. By the way, I do shine them up with the angle grinder to get rid of the scale. That's really important for the carbon apparently to get in there. That would be a cool thing to actually get, you know, mild steel even. You know, you could actually harden the outside and all you'd have to do is this. I think that would be great. Let's give it a go. Alright, let's try that. I would have expected that to kind of just start burning or something. And here we have a nice piece of wrought iron for another project. Actually, let me just show you where I sheared it off actually. Can you see it there? So about one third of the way I sheared off by just the force of the hammer blows. Okay, so we have 20 minutes later. That piece now has been in the charcoal for that length of time and is still just barely hot to touch. So I'm actually surprised that it took that long to cool down. It didn't burn any of the charcoal. And it has, this colour is a little bit different actually. You see that? It's kind of a nice brightish colour. Let's give it a spark test, see what happens. Well, it didn't work. Okay, so I'm going to take this leftover piece and I'm going to put it in the fire. I'm going to brush it off, clean it off, get it up to really glowing hot, but just below forge welding. Stick it in the can of charcoal, and then we'll see if it works or not. It'll probably take about 2 hours to cool. I mean, it could work, you never know. So let's give that a go, and won't show you all that, I'll just show you the results. Now, a little update on the can. As you can see, we have some glowing embers starting at the top here. This is 3 hours into it, and that big piece of wrought iron is only now starting to, I don't know, burn its way through to the top. And the can isn't hot to the touch. I can actually touch it. Okay, let's do a spark test real quick. Now, whacking it against the actual anvil, it's not deforming either, and you can hear the clear ring. It's not deforming as much. Now, there isn't tons of carbon in there, but I hope the camera picked it up that there were actually way more sparks than originally that the piece actually had. So that's encouraging. This is a good way then, of course, to make your piece more wear resistant. So that's a cool little trick, I think. Looks a bit better. We're getting there. We have a little issue here. I need to make this turn a bit more, I think. And the problem with that is, as I'm whacking here, you can see obviously the tongues have just dug in there really badly, so I'm gonna have to file that out now, like really quickly. And next time I'm gonna have to pay attention that I'm holding them back here. When I'm whacking, as it's traveling up the tongues, I need to stop when it gets to that point. I want to show you now the test piece. One of them anyway I've decided to encase in clay. This is not the proper raku clay or fire clay. It's just what I have available to me, and that's what I'm going to use. And basically in the center I have the piece of wrought iron, and it's surrounded by about that much charcoal powder. The idea is, of course, to exclude oxygen as much as possible for this to actually work. And I believe you have to be above the non-magnetic state as well. And of course, if you're doing this at forge welding, well, below forge welding temperatures, you'll get there way, way, way faster. Alright, so let's take this little thing. Now I've upped the air supply a bit. I want it at a bright orange. Now, 1 hour, 40 minutes in. Let's see. Here's our piece. Whatever that is, that's not our piece. I have no idea what that is. That's got to be slag or something. That's got to be molten slag from this charcoal. That's really weird. Never had that before. I have no idea what that is. It's gotta be just slag. Now where's our piece? Or maybe that's our piece. I really don't know. Okay, so I actually basically made some form of Japanese ceramics. It's definitely ceramics now at this stage. It's just incredible. That's the clay. And the test piece is lodged in there. There it is. If I can actually get it out, I'll give it a spark test just in case. I mean, I don't know at what stage that actually broke and left air in there. So we'll give it a spark and yeah, see what happens. Just give you a little quench. Right. Okay, let's give it a go on the spark. Oh! We have spark! Okay, I've already filed this and I'm pretty thrilled with the amount of hardness. Let me just show you. I mean, it's amazing. There's like a huge difference, and this is a modern file, Rockwell, some 60 something. So the only thing that's left to do now is see if we can actually break it. It probably will bend because the case harden is probably only like maybe 0.5 millimeter thick or something like that. Yeah, let's just give that a try. Yeah, that bent. Okay, so that's basically the advantage of case hardening. The tool can actually bend. You have a hard case, but you can actually bend it back as well if it bends on you. There we go. You know, it's nothing compared to our modern steels, of course, but you know, we've actually managed to add a case to a bit of a test piece. Luckily, there was a bit of success at the end of the tunnel, as they say. You know, it wasn't a complete failure or waste of my time. So yeah, that's good. I'll just bend this back into shape.